live from the Pavilion Building in Dubai, the Dubai Expo 2020. Yes, with Cradle and Berhad. And today was our opening ceremony this morning. And then after that, we had the keynote address. And just recently at 2 o'clock Dubai time, which was 6 o'clock Malaysian time, for about 50 minutes, we had Cheryl from Grab, who was telling the stories of Grab and how they started, the challenges they faced, and where they are today. And right now, even though they're doing quite well, God bless, but they still have some challenges, like all of us, business challenges, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But as they say, what's this? We all going through the same thing, and we all have to learn how to be creative, pivot, be innovative, and see the opportunities of where it is. So today we're going to be talking about another business topic. Well, not when I say today, coming up very shortly. We're going to be talking about connecting the dots, understanding the investment focus. Now, I say investment with a capital I because that is a key word that many startups and entrepreneurs and businesses are always looking at. Investment. How can we invest better? Where should we invest? What portfolio should we invest? Even though investment is a very scientific procedure, it is also a very subjective procedure because it's all about the E word, expectations, management of expectations. Where do we want to go with a particular investment? So we're very lucky. We've been very lucky today to have some very, very fantastic speakers. And, we had Cheryl at 2 o'clock. And right now we've got a really, really good, well, I like to call them cast, not an acting cast, but an investment cast. And they'll be sharing some food for thought for this session of understanding the investment focus. Why I say food for thought? Because it's 3 o'clock here in Dubai and it's 7 o'clock here in Malaysia. So we're eating into their dinner time, okay? So we really, really appreciate the time that our panel, and I'll introduce them in a minute, on how much time they're giving us, sacrificing their personal time to be with us here today. So as part of the appetizer, no pun intended, for this session, let me introduce the speakers in no particular order, okay? And as you can see them on our screens right there, the dynamic woman I'll start with the ladies first, and I'll say the dynamic woman on the right is Datuk Yvonne Chia, Chairman of Cradle Fund, Sindar and Berhad. Now, she wants to be known as Yvonne, okay? So she does not want to be known as Datuk Yvonne. She told me the other day in a very nice, polite way, Datuk is not part of my name. My name is Yvonne. So I will be referring to as Yvonne. So if any of you are going to tell me off on Facebook, on the live stream, why am I not calling Datuk Yvonne Datuk Yvonne? Because she told me to. Okay, so you have to ikut arahan boss. Okay, so I'm going to ikut arahan Yvonne. So Yvonne Chia is a senior fellow chartered banker who was appointed to the Cradle board as a non-executive chairman in January 2020. Yvonne was also the first female CEO of any commercial bank in Malaysia. Well done, Yvonne. She has over 40 years of great experience and has held leading positions in both local and foreign organizations. She first began her career with Bank of America before serving as the Group Managing Director, CEO of RHB Banking Group from 1996 to 2002, and Group Managing Director, CEO of Hong Leong Banking Group from 2003 to 2013. I'm going to put it there because she has won multiple awards, local and overseas, and she's very passionate about what Cradle is doing in terms of trying to spread the investment gospel, so to speak, to really communicate the messages out there to make it easier, not easy, the word easy is not the right word, but as less challenging as possible, especially in this very tough and uncertain time that we're all in. So Yvonne, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today. And then I'll move to our other female speaker today, Miss Arni Laily Anwarrudin, Head of Mergers and Acquisitions at Petronas Ventures. Arni joined Petronas in 2002 and is currently the Head of Corporate Mergers and Acquisitions at Petronas Ventures, the corporate venture capital arm of Petronas. She currently sits on the board of Petronas Jamingan Berhad and has held various other important roles within the Petronas family and the entities as well. Arni's previous experience within the Petronas group include various roles in project financing, risk management, planning and performance, business transformation, encompassing corporate, upstream business, gas and power business. So don't let her youthful looks fool you. She has done a lot and she has an opinion and experience on many, many things, not just within the investment focus, but within the finance focus as well. Arni is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales and graduated from the London School of Economics with a degree in political science and a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance. So Arni, thank you again. Welcome to our session, and we will be, I'm sure you get a lot of questions about Petronas, and we will be tapping some of those questions a little bit very, very shortly. And then we have the gentleman in the middle, right there with the black coat. This is Encik Taufiq Iskandar, Chief Investment Officer of Penjana Capital. This and Penjana Capital, for those of you who are unaware, which was incorporated in July 2020 as part of the government of Malaysia's initiative to accelerate the development of a future of an innovative economy that we always talk about. Its main role is to stimulate the economy through investments in innovative, fast-growing businesses. He's armed with 14 years of experience in the fund management business. He has a deep commitment to the development of viable as well as vibrant capital markets in Malaysia. So, here's a little fun fact about Tawfiq. From what my finance and business people tell me, he is a fantastic listener. So, Tawfiq, thank you for lending us your ears and lending us your wisdom very, very shortly. And sorry, last but not least is Tunku Alizakri Alias, and he told me strictly, like Yvonne, please don't call him Tunku, okay? Call him Zakri, okay? So please don't tell me off because I'm also respect one of my speakers. Zakri has a very, very impressive CV, as our panel does, our individual members of our panel does. Zakri was appointed as MAVCAP chairman on July the 1st, 2021, so just a few months back. Just for all of you out there, just to let you know, MAVCAP supports the development of the Malaysian venture capital ecosystem via public-private partnerships, locally and internationally, investing and championing local technopreneurs to the global scale. Zakri's amazing career spans over 20 years of senior management and board-level experience in areas such as fund management, the finance sector, central banking, social security, healthcare, media and telecommunications, property development, plantations, and oil and gas. He joined the EPF in 2014 as the Deputy Chief Executive Officer in Strategy and subsequently served as the Chief Executive Officer from 2018 to February 2021. Zakri, thank you so much for looking casual and relaxed, and I'm sure you have some great insights to share with us as well. So everybody, let's get physically here, let's give them a round of applause. Virtually, let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, now is my favorite part of a session where I don't do much talking. I just ask questions and let our panel take it away and inspire us. And we will be, I am also very, very aware of time. I've got my time clock right here. So just a warm-up question, and I'll start with you, Yvonne. In 2 sentences or less, what does the words investment and growth mean to you and the organization that you work for, in your case, Cradle?
Yes. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody, for joining this session. Thanks, Ben. Many Malaysians would know of Cradle, but I think for the conference today, I'd like to very quickly share who exactly we are. We are an early stage funding agency funded by the Ministry of Finance and administered from the Ministry of Science and Technology. In fact, we are amongst the early leader in ASEAN in the Malaysian government's foresight to see ahead and create the agency fund. Our mandate was very clear: to create and facilitate a robust startup ecosystem for new entrepreneurs in the tech sector. We not only provide early startup funding, but we also support with coaching and complementary entrepreneurial and business building activities. So very quickly, I would say that since inception in 2003, close to 8,900 applications have been received, and we funded close to about 274 million, which in today's terms is between 30 to 40 million US, depending on the exchange rate in the last 10 years. And in the early days, we promoted the first generation of startups. Example like e-hailing public transport, financial payment intermediaries, transfer remit services, mobility software, and various online applications. In fact, for many of you, you may not be aware, we are proud to say in 2012, we pre-seed and seed My Taxi, which today is a unicorn many times over, now known as Grab. The impact that we have created has distinguished Cradle as a flag and influencer for startups in Malaysia and have made MOSTI and MOF a name in the region. Most importantly, the synergistic impact has been commendable, where from the initial seed grants, the startups we seeded has created over 81,000 jobs and went on to raise additional funding of over 1.375 billion ringgit. Now, this, of course, excludes Grab's massive funding and its data up to 2018. So through our capacity building and support services in the coaching and upgrading of skills, Cradle has trained over 1,657 startup founders and co-founders and entrepreneurs. And I'm encouraged to report that 76% of our grantees startups today are still in business and operating. So Ben, that is in a very short summary of where Cradle is and what we have done today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Tawfiq?
Thanks, Ben. But I think to begin, let me share how privileged I feel sharing the same platform with some of the people I admire who have been in the industry far longer than myself. And to answer your question, in one single word, it would have been capital. To me, investment is capital, and that capital can be of many forms. It can be a financial capital, it can be an intellectual capital in the form of insight, and it can be in the form of network capital to succeed. So that is investment in essence. And this is actually consistent with the view of the government of Malaysia when they form Penjana Capital and to initiate a program what we call as Dana Penjana Nasional. Ben, you have given us the introduction, so thank you on behalf of Penjana Capital. But let me clarify a little bit further about what we do at Penjana Capital. Like any economic development board of a state, we intend to stimulate the country's economy by future-proofing businesses in Malaysia through innovation from startups. The way we approach this is that we intend to catalyze the supply of growth capital and strengthen the intermediation of the capital flows to support innovation-driven enterprises and build a foundation for a sustainable economic growth. The government of Malaysia is very clear in its intent and also commitment that a sustainable startup and growth ecosystem is only possible if the country has a vibrant venture capital ecosystem. And that's what we intend to do with our program Dana Penjana Nasional at Penjana Capital. Thanks, Van. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Zakri.
Hey. So coming to your question, what does it mean? For me, I'm going to take a much more fluffy approach. To me, I think it's more along the lines of unlocking vision. One of the main challenges for a lot of these startups is that it's very difficult for all of the starters and founders to go and get buy-in from banks or established capital providers who will actually believe in their vision. And I'm actually very happy to be part of MAVCAP, whereby we are able to go and really work with this visionary individuals and really to bring some unthought of ideas and bringing real value, not only just in terms of dollars and cents, but also in terms of social value into this world. Quick tie up also to what I mean is, like, for example, at MAVCAP, we've been around since 2001. And since all that time, we've actually been able to go and work with close to over 1,000 companies across the globe, right? And our latest success story that we've gone in quite early on is, of course, CARSON. And that's short for awesome, right? And this is where when you're dealing with very young, bright, driven individuals who have a dream that they want to achieve, and they meet up with people like the people who are sitting around this panel session, who actually believes in them and actually gives them a chance for them to realize it. And on top of that, they're able to go and give real contributions. So, for example, like in all of the companies that we've invested in, so far we've generated more than 6 billion ringgit in terms of revenues. Yeah, so that's roughly around 1.5 to 2 billion US dollars. But what I'm more happy and more excited about is in terms of job creation. So through our cooperation and working together with all of these dreamers and visionaries, we've created more than 13,500 jobs in this very exciting sector. So that's what it means to me, and I think that's what it also means to MAVCAP, and we are proud to be part of this journey.
Thanks for sharing that, Zakri. Arni?
Ben, now I feel like a new kid on the block on this. Our venture capital arm has only been formed 3 years ago. So, we are really a new kid on the block. And our main objective is really to tap into game-changing technologies. And the idea here is really to look into deploying it back to Petronas to tackle some of our business pain points, and as well as to catalyze new growth and business areas to future-proof Petronas. The idea of having our CVC is to look into the disruptors of our energy industry specifically in the next 5 to 10 years. And we know that this is happening much sooner rather than later with this accelerated energy transition. So this is really, when we look at it from a strategic investor for Petronas, our value proposition goes beyond capital. So just to catch on what Taufiq mentioned earlier, right? So in the case of Petronas VC, we also, in addition to investment, which is really deal sourcing, introducing our VCs to other VCs, we also look at technology accelerator. And maybe here, if I can expand a little bit, it kind of ties to what Yvonne, Zakri have also mentioned. In our technology accelerator program, which is what we call Future Tech, we develop, nurture the Malaysian ecosystem, the Malaysian startups, and scale them to global standards. And this is where we also want to influence that tech-driven startup ecosystem in Malaysia. And this is where in our second installation this year, we started our first session in 2019. We have seen close to 400 applicants from just less than about 150 in 2019. We've got 400 applicants coming into the accelerator program. And this year as well, we've got 2 corporate partners joining us. So we've got 2 industry captains, Sandabi Plantation and Telkom Malaysia. And these are the 2 industries together with energy that's being disrupted left, right, and center. So we're very excited about our accelerator program. So we've got investment, we've got technology accelerator, and the other bit that we bring in as well to complete the ecosystem is the deployment angle. So we try to accelerate that technology and the investment that we do into our system. So whether it's within our own group of companies, internally or externally. So that's the value that we look to bring when we look at investments into our potential startups. Over to you, Ben.
Fantastic. Now, well done. Well done on getting the wins, because we always talk about getting the wins. Sam Dabi and the other company that you mentioned, fantastic. So well done on that. And I just want to make you feel better, not for the sake of making you feel better, but for this, just to, in terms of sharing and, being inspirational, and also the sharing learning content. You said that you felt like the new kid on the block, that you were, just when you felt, don't worry, because I'm showing my age here a bit. The band New Kids on the Block sang a step called Step by Step. Okay, so it's
That's right.
So the word step by step is very prevalent to investment and business, because we have to take it step by step. And Cheryl earlier alluded in her presentation, take it step by step. Rafiza and her team at Cradle Funds in Berhad is always telling her go step by step. Okay, so like that, it's a don't feel shy, because because we all have plenty to share today, and sticking to our opinions and mantra and techniques as well. So what we're going to do now is that I'm going to go on that momentum and the topic of change and evolution, because investment, really, when you make an investment, it is about change and the evolution of the portfolio or the business itself. So that, Yvonne, I'll start with you in terms of how do you see Cradle's role changing over the years in terms of, the investment focus and businesses grow and other investments grow as well. And then after that, I'll go to you, Arni, and probably ask you the question about how do you go about allocating your investments within Petronas? Because with Petronas, there's always a perception challenge there. Petronas, wow, okay, they must have plenty of investments. Let's go over there, or let's go with that. But sometimes what people don't know is what some people don't know. So I'll start with Yvonne first.
Thanks. Clearly the times are changing so fast. On the global landscape, disruptive technology and rapid innovation has disrupted lives, government, and the marketplace. But I think it's important for me to also share this, because Malaysia is working on transforming ourselves into the digitally driven nation. That means very much a knowledge-based economy with a lot of technology. And we also aspire to be a regional leader in the digital economy. So what we have done is that we have a wholesome approach. Malaysia has set up clear roadmaps and integrated alignment across the breadth of government, business, communities, and marketplace to move ourselves up the global innovation value chain. So what do we have? We have actually the digital economic blueprint, for which in that digital blueprint is a potential of creating 5,000 number of startups in the next 5 years. Then we have the National Fourth Industrial Revolution framework, and we have the National Digital Network Plan, as well as the Ministry of Science Technologies 10 to 10, My Science, Technology, Innovation, Economy, to guide the country and the business, the government, the marketplace, and the community planning forward as we move and grow with the 12 Malaysia plan. Now, within this role, what is Cradle's role within this big picture? And you say connecting the dots. And that is, we will have to provide new programs for the pre-seed and seed, as well providing an ecosystem with new plans for new verticals, like the renewables, the medical healthcare, the edtech, the agriculture, and even urban city problem solvers, as well as the ESG factors as well. So over and above that, I mean, that's only a part of the pre-seed seed funding. Our capacity building will have to now encompass the new learnings and the changing demands, and we will stay adaptive to facilitate the knowledge, the research sharing with universities, guiding the analysis of addressable marketplace, proof of concept, especially today in a very increasingly discerning and more competitive marketplace. So from our learnings and listening to the startup pain points, we realized that we need to provide a one-stop platform. Today, we find that while we have done a lot of work, they may be a bit of ad hoc, that we don't see the big picture, and therefore to connect the dots, we are going to launch soon a My Startup portal, a platform you can call it, to allow these startup budding entrepreneurs to navigate efficiently, whether it's to understand basic business, connecting with potential partners, and to understand the marketplace expectations via research, link-ups, and even link up with potential investors like MAVCAP and Penjana, or even Petronas for that matter. Yeah. So in conclusion, I would want to say that that the future for Cradle will be, of course, we will work together with the other agencies to create the 5,000 startups, the ambition of the national blueprint. But we are committed to empower the startup ideas to fruition. We want to collectively have a thriving startup ecosystem that will foster the entrepreneurship DNA in a forward future digitally driven Malaysian economy. An ecosystem, as I will repeat, an ecosystem that facilitate and create and deliver solutions to the community and marketplace domestically, and I think important in the region. As you know, ASEAN is a 3.1 trillion economy. When you go to Cradle, you may be in Malaysia, but you have the reach to go to ASEAN with a 650 million population. And hopefully, as Alizakri says, create jobs, the impact of synergy, creating further jobs. And along the way, we hope we will birth a few unicorns of our own. Thank you.
Nice, very nice. Arni, to the question that I mentioned earlier about Petronas, how do you go about allocating your investments?
Yeah, I think before I get into that, Ben, I'm very intrigued with what Yvonne mentioned about the one-stop center and platform. I think that's in our conversation with the startups, with the 400 applicants, and we went through the funnel of looking at selecting the ones that we are taking on board for our program. I think one of the challenges is putting them all together and to see and give them visibility of the ecosystem. So, I'll be the first one to put up our hand. Of course, I'll get the mandate from our bosses, but to get into that ecosystem and to give visibility to our founders and entrepreneurs, I think that's an excellent idea and platform you've got. So that one-stop center is really something that I look forward to. So to your question, Ben, on allocating for investments, I know Yvonne mentioned verticals, and I heard renewables. So I'm very excited. So in the case of Petronas, we look at 3 key verticals. We've got the future of energy, the future of facilities, and the future of chemicals. So they are adjacent to what we call our core energy sector. So renewables is also critical as we go into a more sustainable, greener energy future. And our role as CVC cannot be strategic without looking at the financial aspect. So I need to balance both returns, strategic fit, and also the returns. So we look to invest in companies that can create value within these 3 key verticals for Petronas and address a large market opportunity. What this means is that we look to founders and entrepreneurs that has regional and global mindset and commercial scalability. So because the outcomes of our VC is very much influenced by your 80-20 rule, so 80% returns from 20% deals, our target portfolio construct will have a mix, Ben. We'll have diversified portfolio of investments across different early to growth stage. I know Yvonne mentioned seed, so we've got various stages, early to growth stage, across various geographies. So we've got Malaysia and Southeast Asia, with a mix of direct and indirect investments. So that's what I can share for now. Ben, over to you.
Thanks, Arni. And Zachary, how about you? I mean, the question that we have for MAVCAP is that we've always known MAVCAP as the company that supports the development of venture capital, public-private partnership, as I mentioned earlier. But in terms of the investment sector, can you tell us, the role that MAVCAP plays in terms of the investment and also growth and accelerations of those investments?
Thanks, Ben. As what Yvonne had actually mentioned earlier on, where Cradle handles the early stage. So we sort of like play the role of the handover when the baby starts to grow up a bit. So the good news is that you can actually see for startup in the ecosystem, there is a sort of like handover mechanism. So we don't just leave you out to brave the wolves in the woods, So MAVCAP, we actually play the role of from the capital provider, from the mid-stage upwards. And we work principally now at this point of time through our fund of fund models. And I think this is where it's also another exciting aspect, where we not only are we tasked with growing the startup ecosystem, but we also are looking towards growing in terms of the numbers of venture capital fund managers into Malaysia. So for example, we are working very closely with 500 startups, with the Gobi Fund, where it's not just us going into direct investments, but we also want to go and create the capability for a lot of even local VC funds for them to go and start identifying the deals and being able to go and start growing even more exciting companies moving up. So this is where for us, we are sort of like guided towards the sort of sectors. At this point of time, we're looking at our 10 by 10 matrix, like what Yvonne had mentioned, the Malaysian STIE program. So it's both a good thing and a bad thing also. So from the bad thing aspect is that because it's a 10 by 10, so you can imagine the matrix is huge, right? So MAVCAP is into everything and anything in Malaysia within that framework, because principally we are not only just looking into making money, right? We're not just your typical fund whereby we're just going into like, we're not like the evil Arnis of the world, right? Where she's saying, show me the money, 20 and 80. In our case, we're sort of like saying, we're willing to take a chance on you. So within the 10 by 10 framework, we'll look at whether you can contribute to the country. So not only just in financial returns, but also in terms of the social impact and also the transformation to the country. Now, the good news also is that for those of you who are interested to come into Malaysia and work with MAVCAP, all you have to do is just fit yourself within the 10 by 10, and high chances is that we're going to go and have a look at your proposal. So that's it, Ben.
Well, Zachary, I love you just put it in a very nice, compact way, because the startup world and the entrepreneur world is always talking about pitching. Say it in one sentence, and you just said that perfectly. And that leads very nicely to Taufiq. Taufiq, can you, you explained quite clearly what Penjana Capital does within the context of the ecosystem and the industry. But the question that we have for you is that, or I have for you, is that how do you envisage differentiating value propositions?
Ben, since you commended Alizakri's succinct reply, then I will try to make it very much more structured. For the value proposition,
no pressure, okay, yeah.
I was not supposed to answer this question because I'm not selling Penjana Capital. Penjana Capital is not capital manager, so we are not looking for commercial return only. So we are not in the midst of selling. But what is more important is that we are an economic development board. So our role is very much catalytic. So we are looking into the long term. And we want to have a community of VC fund managers who share that aspiration and go back to the very basic of what VC is all about. And there are three value propositions of the program that we administer. Number one, we acknowledge that there are frictions of financing stage. And I think the three of other panelists would agree with me. And this is not just a problem in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia. It's a problem across the globe, more so, I think, in a fragmented market like Southeast Asia. So we have frictions in terms of financing. Hence, our investment strategy involves various mandates across all stages of venture financing, from early stage, from seed up until growth. And our investment strategy involves both instruments, equity as well as debt instruments. So that gives flexibility for our fund managers to actually support innovative startups. So we ensure that there will be opportunities for follow-on funding. That is the problem of any VC fund managers out there. And if they're part of our cohort, we can assure you that there won't be any problems in terms of follow-on funding across different life cycle of venture financing. Second problem is that we have a lack of validation. And this is a real problem, especially for our local startup, because lack of internationalizations of the VC validations. Hence, our investment programs specifically draws capital from strategic investors, both local as well as foreign. So we create a network of a strong home regional buyers. We have investors from Korea in the likes of Hyundai, Chia to support our innovative startups in Malaysia. We also managed to draw a couple of strategic investors from Hong Kong as well as Singapore to be part of the program. So we want to create a global network with home regional buyers. The third problems that we have is regulatory constraints on innovation. Ergo, we coordinate and co-invest with private sectors as well as collaborate with innovators and disruptors to align developmental policies of the country and introduce supportive interventions. So we would like to work with people like Yvonne, as well as Alizakri at MAVCAP, and also Arni at Petronas Ventures, to ensure that we have an ecosystem consists of not just government agencies or government-backed institutions, but also corporate VCs. When we have a vibrant VC ecosystem, like I said earlier, we have a higher chance to create a much more sustainable and vibrant startup ecosystem in Malaysia. So in essence, our aspiration is to reduce frictions, to increase more validation, and to eliminate constraints. And at the end of the day, we intend to bring back venture capital financing to its original glory, which is long-term mindset in nature. The problem with the capital market across the globe, particularly in the US as well as Malaysia, is that we have players with short-term thinking and short-term financing objective. So that doesn't really nurture technological innovations that Arni talked about earlier. So that's why we intend to bring down cost of capital to support this innovation and create a much more holistic ecosystem in Malaysia as well as in Southeast Asia. Over to you, Ben.
No, that was really well said, Tawfiq, because I really like what you said there, like you and your company looking at the bigger picture of really developing and growing the ecosystem. And whereas our other panel speakers spoke a bit more operationally and day-to-day and like the historical evolution of it. So you spoke about the big picture and, like you said, working with companies from the private sector, from the public sector, so that the ecosystem grows. And that's the hardest thing to do. for the ecosystem to grow. We talk about it all the time, don't we? Okay.
Ben, I would just want to add here, because
Sure.
I am a strong student of Karl Polanyi, and I think I'm pretty sure some of the panelists maybe is also a strong fan of Karl Polanyi, particularly here in recent times. We find support in the form of Prof. Mariana Mazzucato. I believe that we need invisible hand of a state to catalyze new industries, and that has been the story since Karl Polanyi time, 200 years ago, through the Great Transformation. So therefore, Malaysian government, particularly Ministry of Finance, is strong in terms of commitment to ensure that this project is a success.
Nice. Very, very well said. Look, ladies and gentlemen of the panel, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to ask these certain individuals if they would like to, from the physical floor here in Dubai, if they'd like to ask any questions. And then I think I see a few hands going up, and then I'll also bounce that off with a virtual. So I'll just ask one question, and my challenge to you for this question is to keep it tight. Maybe 4 or 5 sentences if you can. I know you're very passionate about the topic, and you will get more passionate about the topic when I read it out, the question. Now, my other favorite word in business is M&M. Okay, not the chocolate. Yeah, I think I should charge M&M for saying this all the time, every time I do a business forum. But to make some usahawan money on myself. But milestones and mistakes. Okay, we always talk about the milestones. Okay, which is great, which is easy to talk about. But somehow in our part of the world, the word mistakes is such a negative word that it's almost like you've done something criminal. But we're human and everybody makes mistakes. I like to see it as a positive, or we like to see it as a positive. And so key learnings, okay, maybe that investment didn't work. Now, what do we learn from it? How can it work better next time? That's the greatest teacher sometimes, rather than the formal learning or the readings and all that. So I'll start with you, Yvonne, and then after that I'll move to Zakri. I'm sorry if I'm looking up like this and I'm looking at the camera is that way, but the screen is that way. So please don't think that I'm not concentrating on mata juling or anything like that. But basically, I'll start with Yvonne, and then I'll go to Zakri, and then I'll go to Tawfiq, and then I'll go to you, Arni, on this one. And then after that, we will open it up for questions from the physical floor right here in Dubai. So Yvonne?
Oh, yes. Of course, there are a lot of learnings to be taken from the years that Cradle has been in operations. If we look back and in our discussions with management, it's quite clear that many of some of the things that we do at Cradle site, for example, could be better enhanced in a much more integrated manner. And as I said, because of the pain points that we have learned and listening to the startups, as what Ami has mentioned, we have therefore suggested, and that has been now mostly split platform that is coming up on my startup. But more important thing is for us today that from the learnings and the pain points going forward, we need to understand as the disruption and innovation has gone to a different level of complex. It's now the 3rd generation of startups for that kind of verticals that we talk about. So what's the kind of capacity building do we need? What kind of coaching do we need? What kind of adjacencies, support services that we have to provide? These are things that we will, as you say, pivot along the way. And we need to make sure that we understand the changing customer behavior, the changing addressable market, and the potential scalability today is actually at your doorstep. The physical barriers are out in the system. And also the learnings learned that we tell some of our startups too is that, and there is a time sometimes you may need to walk away. It could be a combination of timing, the inability to scale, the poor execution. You have a good idea, but you may have to walk away. But there are also times that we have missed out, for example, in not following them to the journey that they were going to create ourselves more value, for example. But then Cradle's role is quite focused, quite specific. In the future, we may adapt a little bit more from the learnings and go into some, I call it alternate funding, but the bigger picture is, the good thing from the learnings is that the government is providing a wholesome integrated approach towards a digital economy. And that's where you see Penjana and MAVCAP, and then we have MDEC, then we have obviously Cradle. and magic. And in fact, we have the new technology park as well. So all these are aligned with the big picture, and we say, how do you connect the dots? And therefore, do your specific part to create value and transform your part of the journey to a digitally driven economy. Yes, we have learned from our mistakes, and we are definitely aligning it to the new framework across in front of us. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. Zachary?
Okay, so when you want to talk about milestones and mistakes, I would like to go and relate to a story where I had actually visited one of our investee companies called Aerodyne. For those of you who don't know Aerodyne, it's the largest drone company, born in Malaysia, bred in Malaysia. Big shout out to you, Kamarul, if you're watching. They started out in 2014 or 15 or so. And in that short time period up till now, they've had 9 milestones, which was actually crisis points, which would have collapsed the company at any one of those crisis points. But the great thing is that mindset of the founders, that they actually took those mistakes as something to learn from and to pivot very, very quickly. And one of the things that I have to say, from that, the mistake that they went was that they were saying that they grew too fast. So they were going into so many geographies and so many countries that they started losing sight of the core DNA of why they were set up. And so when you have different countries with different management, they started doing things differently. So this was where Kamarul related to me the story of where he said he saw this, the mistake of growing too fast was that he had to bring it all back. Bring it back to the core, bring it back to the DNA on what they stand for. And this was where Kamarul then came back and said, irrespective of where you're operating in, whether you're in America or China or Latin America, so on and so forth, the DNA of Aerodyne will always stay true. And I think this is one of those lessons that is quite applicable to a lot of our startups also, especially in the hay times of when they start to grow very, very quickly. So when you are looking too much externally, you tend to forget that, the core is just as important, and that is what will provide stability in all the times of crisis. So this is where, again, the 9 crisis points of Aerodyne actually serve to go and make them stronger and better. And it just goes back to the very basic story of don't forget your roots, don't forget me. And if you stick true to why you were set up, you'll be able to go and get through any problems that is thrown your way. Thanks.
Nicely said, Zachary, because Aerodyne quite well. They had their product launch at 10:15 this morning here in Dubai. So their presentation was, I kid you not, it was state of the art. I wanted to say it just now, but I forgot to say it. But if Tony Stark and Iron Man were real, your Aerodyne presentation beat Tony Stark's presentation. It was really, really cool.
Amazing company.
It was, I was like, wow. I said, how have we not known about this earlier? But hopefully today, inshallah, with that story, it will trickle more content and success stories within the investment and financial ecosystem that things can be done. And like you said, the learnings there, trying not to grow too fast, going at a nice pace and level to achieve more milestones and to achieve targets of sustainability. So so thanks for sharing that. Great story. Tawfiq?
Ben, I would like to talk about the point Arni raised earlier about global mindset when she's selecting potential investee companies for Petronas Ventures. I think the biggest obstacle for founders and also for the investing community is mindset. For the founders, the mindset is that they are pretty much self-sufficient. It's all about managing risk, focus too much on repeatability, product market fit, and so on. Investors are much more attuned toward looking at the vision that you want to create, the scalability and the profitability part of a startup. And that is where I realized most of the founders, not just Malaysians, but also those regional founders, fail to appreciate. Have the fire in the belly. I'm pretty sure Yvonne would agree with me because I've listened to her speeches before. Have fire in the belly and be bold, be brave. Go global, go regional from the moment of inception. And that is non-negotiable. I agree with Arni's point and approach towards that. To the investing community, again, have a vision, think about the long term. What we have learned from our experience of COVID-19 is very clear that technology is very important, and innovation-driven businesses will actually surpass any benchmark if they are managed well. So, focus on these so-called innovative businesses and passionate founders. Current pandemic presents fundamental shift and plenty of opportunities. So don't be risk averse. You are capitalists. That's why you chose this business. So take on risk, take on capital that you are entrusted to, and invest in those innovations. That is my biggest learning throughout the experience managing Dana Penjana Nasional under Penjana Kapital. We should not be bragging about milestone, to be honest. Like you mentioned, we were established July last year. I'm humble in my approach. And like I said, we are here not to take the limelight. We are an economic development board. We are catalytic in nature. But our approach has been proven to be a success. The government actually has a matching program through Dana Penjana Nasional where we want to match on one-to-one basis. So we have raised, as of last week, almost $1 billion capital commitment from foreign, especially foreign investors and the local family offices. The government's contribution is only 480 million. That means by having a government's co-investment approach or matching element, you can actually unlock those capital that are trapped in low-geared corporates, as well as rich established 1% of the country and in the region. So I think that approach will be here to stay, because what we intend to do is to catalyze this capital and redirect to those innovation businesses. Another point that I wish to highlight is that throughout, I think, less than 6 months since I assumed the role, we have, conducted almost 19 investment committee meetings. We have approved 26 investment thus far. 21 of them have materialized, i.e. they have seen a capital call, and 2 of them have turned unicorn. One of them is Carson, a local pride, and second is Zendit. And I know we talk about Grab, and I know, Ben, you have cautioned us, don't mention any names, but since Zakri has raised a couple of names, so let me brag about the story of success that Malaysia government has achieved. We are so, disappointed that we lost Grab to our neighboring country. But guess what? We invested in Zendit, and Zendit has committed to relocate its finance hub. For those who are not in the know, Zendit is actually a fintech company, one of the regional key fintech players in Southeast Asia, and they are willing to relocate its finance hub, which is essentially the bread and butter of its business, to Malaysia. So again, there's no harm in copycat, in copying success approaches of other countries. That's what the government of Malaysia intends to do, and we are here to stay.
No, that validates my point exactly what you said about you, Tawfiq. You're a very good listener. So you started what you were saying from what Arni was saying. So well done. And no, it's really true what you say about the mindset. We talk about mindset every day in business, how hard it is to change, and people's perspectives on investments, and also trying to be less fickle as well sometimes. So, positive, go for it. Completely concur with what you just said. Arni, your M&M in terms of success stories and also key learnings.
Okay, maybe not so much on the milestone, but let me start with the learnings. I think I want to continue on Taufiq's point as well. I think one of the lessons learned from our Future Tech Accelerator program. So when we look at our startup companies that we invest in, and we nurture, and we handhold, and we mentor over the 12 months period, the continuity thereafter is what that was missing. It's nurturing them from a POC point, proof of concept stage, to actually going into commercial. And even though we have tagged them with our businesses, say for example Petronas Dagangan or Petronas Chemical, but I think it's the nurturing part beyond that, taking them into commercial and scalability, is the angle that we are trying to amp up differently this time around. So we have that mentoring continuing. To Alizakri's point, we don't just look at the multiples, we also look at deployment. So unfortunately, my KPI has got both. Whenever we go to our investment committee, there must be a business that will accept or look at that investment as a possibility. You know, if it's not now, it's 5 years down the road. So that's one bit that was the learning bit, and that talks about when we look at the founder and the entrepreneur. Back to Taufiq's point as well, is this commercial mindset and being a communicator of that company. So whenever we have our stand-ups and all that, and I look at the pitches that we have, I think that's where we are very good technically. A lot of our founders and the applicants that I see in our future tech, they are very excited, gung-ho about the technical aspects. But I think when we only have a 1 minute pitch or a 2 minutes pitch, it's about packaging it into a commercial and a communicator angle. I think that's one bit that I thought we could nurture a little bit more. And I think the other one is what I like here is this collaboration with the ecosystem. I think when we first did our future tech in 2019, we were doing it a lot on ourselves with NTIS. But this time around, you know, I had the privilege of meeting Rafiza and and speaking to NTIS mostly, and we've got 500 startup as the incubator to help us, and with Penjana, and hopefully with MAVCAP as well going forward, because as far as our capital, it is quite small. So catalytic and how we can double, triple that capital would be something that I look forward to as investors into our startups. So from a milestone perspective, since we are only 3 years old, we've got 3 companies from our Malaysia. We've got 4 direct investments from our Malaysian site, and we've got a couple more that's done out of our PIVA out of San Francisco. So that's the other bit that we want to leverage more, bring the Silicon Valley experience to our startup ecosystem in Malaysia. Over to you, Ben.
No, Laily, well done with that one, with that answer, because I hear you loud and clear, even though you didn't say it so directly in terms of what you were saying about the communication or something, and that, I mean, the mindset, what Tawfiq was saying, that's the challenge there. But it goes back to two words that capacity and capability, and that's one thing that, as you mentioned, Rafiza from Cradle Funds and Berhad, and also was this Dr. K. Nagulendran, you know, in his speeches also in his time back in Mosti, he's always both individuals are always talking about capacity and capability, and sometimes we think about, you know, which means in other words skill set, you know, the capability of a team or a group to really take the business from A to Z and back, and to diversify and all the above. So hear you loud and clear on that. I think we all talk about that all the time in terms of skills, people, capacity, capability. So very, very well nailed and very well supported by Tawfiq, and just a very nice balance of answers right there. Look, you've all spoken extremely well. I would like to go a little bit longer. I've already WhatsApped my team in the team in Sarawak and KL that we are going to overrun, and that's a good thing, okay? Because we want to get some questions from the floor. I mean, I don't know how good the camera angle is over there, but there's a lot of people behind me. There's a lot of people in front of me. That's why I'm looking at different angles. So anybody from the physical floor here in Dubai that would like to ask a question to the panel, whether it's to the whole panel or maybe to a certain individual of the panel. Yep. Anybody? One question there. Let's show of hands. One question there. Okay. Okay. No. Okay. We'll just start with your question. All right. So just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Suhail Sak, and I'm from First Edutainment platform, The Missing Element, and this is my team right here. So we are a startup. We are registered in India, but our startup, we started with a goal. We have a global curriculum which we created by taking out the elements that are being missed out from the current education system. So our goal is to create a global curriculum that can be taught everywhere, which breaks all the conventional system of education, plus creating a happier and a healthier world. Because like even if we take this Expo as an example, we focus on too much of technological aspects. So humanity is something that we forget at times. But what we have to make sure is that what we have to understand is that at the end of the day, humans matters, and we'll be surviving. Like we'll be the person who'll be there towards the end. No matter whatever technology falls, we'll be there. So we are coming to Malaysia. So I wanted to know, our team wanted to know how welcoming is the Malaysian government plus the venture capitalist over there to welcome a startup from India. It is not from India. It is now, as right now in the Malaysian pavilion, it's a Malaysian startup. As I told you, we are in a mission to break all the conventional system of education, and that need the support from all the people who are panel plus who all are here, because it is a huge task that just 4 of us can't pull off. So it is a huge task. So we wanted to know how welcoming is the Malaysian government plus the venture capitalists there, because we are starting a small batch in Malaysia in November. So we wanted to know how welcoming are the people over there plus the venture capitalists.
Okay, thank you, Suhair, for the question. In terms of welcoming, well, we Malaysians are extremely welcoming all the time, probably rated as one of the most hospitable people of the nations in the world, but we're not going to talk about that. That's more of a probably a tourism or culture thing. But I mean, Suhair coming from is how welcoming is the Malaysian government to outside, like international startups, wanting to invest in Malaysia, correct? I mean, to invest in Malaysia, correct? Okay. I know.
Ben, maybe I could just take this very quickly. Thank you so much for raising this point in terms of your startup that you're actually starting, because for me, I think when we invest into something, it shouldn't be doing technology for the sake of technology. We should also look towards social innovation, and the outcome of why we are doing everything that we are doing is to actually create a better world for all of us. So this is where, especially for me, my background comes from a social security background. And coming into MAVCAP, I think this is an area whereby our evaluation process will not only just look from a financial perspective, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to feed yourself, right, as well as the investors who invest in you. But also you must be able to go and showcase that there must be a good social outcome also. So when you talk about the training capabilities and the learning capabilities that your platform or your solution will be able to offer, powered by technology, that is absolutely something that is very, very welcoming, I think, from our perspective. So some startups, they worry about, I have to show money from day one. But I think in this new world order that we're going in, especially after COVID, when we know that we need to go and look at our core basic social aspects to be able to survive and thrive in this new environment. So I think this is a new paradigm that we have to look at when we talk about startups. So by all means, come over to Malaysia, and I think not only in terms of the mindset of the startups, but you will also see in terms of the mindset of the fund managers and investors, it's also a different perspective and much more welcoming to the things that might not necessarily be seen as purely financial. Thank you.
Great answer there, Zakri. Anybody else from the panel want to add to that?
Yeah, maybe just one more point, Zakri's, over and above the financial returns, I spoke about the deployability of that technology or the product into the group. As a corporate venture capital, that's critical for Petronas. So, in areas of our future of energy, future of chemicals, and future of facilities, if it fits that investment criteria, that is also something that we are very excited about. So yes, thanks for that. Yeah.
I think I would like to follow on Arni's point. Maybe Arni also forgot to mention that I think with Petronas Venture, Penjana Kapital has invested in Indian startup, a battery as a service recently, I think a couple of months back. I'm pretty sure Arni would remember. So we are very much welcoming. We don't look beyond national tech. In fact, there is no labeling in venture capital. This is so public market. We don't do that here in private market. So I would like to assure you that Malaysia is very much welcoming. And from the government standpoint, we have the belief that for us to ensure that we have a sustainable growth path, path, we must support startups, because startups, in essence, would disrupt the traditional industries and could lead businesses, because you guys have a purposeful commitment to resolve or to solve society's need. You have speed, you have flexibility. These are the culture of a startup. So trust me, the government of Malaysia is very much welcoming, and we have 3 panelists here who can speak on behalf of different stakeholders, and we are here for you.
All of you have trickled some sort of inspirational time, because 4 hands just went up when you were all talking. So I'm talking to my production team in Malaysia right now. We are going to overrun, okay? And that's a good thing. All right, so this gentleman behind me here, sorry if you can't see the camera panel, but this gentleman behind me, you have a question for Arni, okay, for Petronas?
Hello, my name is Dimitri and I'm from Czech Republic. My startup, actually, we are developing and building hydroponic farms. We produce and we develop hardware and software, and the final product is the crops and so on. In my country, in Czech Republic, we cooperate with different companies from the energy field, which are very interested in our project. So could be interested for your venture capital, or are there any chance to cooperate with Petronas on this field?
Thank you for that. So this is definitely an area that we have been looking into, even amongst our existing Future Tech 2.0 cohort. We've got farming, and hydroponic farm is definitely an area that we're looking into. And also to share, one of our existing investee companies, which is Braintree Technologies, is actually looking into smart farming and all that. So yes, we are not just oil and gas energy company. We do look into sustainable adjacent economies to make sure that we are in line with that corporate sustainability angle of Petronas as well. So yes, it is an area that we welcome as well. Yeah.
Very nice answer. Very nice question. Okay, we've got 2 more questions right here at the moment. Just some advice to the people to the floor who are asking questions. I really appreciate you telling the story, but just tell a short story and ask the question quite directly, because we're just just trying to manage time. Yeah, you want to go?
Okay. My name is Tan from Bolton, Malaysia. Okay, we are the first electric bicycle manufacturer in Malaysia. Okay, startup, I have to thank to Dr. Nagu. We started with the Musti, where we first electric bicycle in Malaysia. After that, MTDC, we test pop and com. After that, MTDC come in and KMP, Kumpulan Modal Perdana. One thing I want to just mention, okay, for the investor, of course, they're looking at the financial refund, ROI, or this thing. So speaking at the heart of all the startup here, of course, everybody face the problem, okay? Even use the credit card, pay the salary. This is true. You can ask mostly. So, okay, we grow, okay? So we have the a different strategy. Example, how do you know that Malaysia produce electric bicycle? None in the world. So we make, okay, initially I make negative profit, deliver to Europe. Per container lost 16,000. But Modal Perdana, that's all I do to say thank you. They accept it. I lost all the money and they invest further. And today we are one of the largest electric bicycle export to Europe and US. We do on the ground with the autonomous hydro, what they call it? Forget already. Okay, so we do on the okay. So just the sound from the investee or that believe all I want to grow the company. Everybody want to grow company. Okay, so the thing is for them. Okay, all the investors. Okay, they look at the ROI, everything. The thing is be patient. No, that's it.
Hi, I'm Jiva from GK Aqua. We're a biotechnology company. Question against to Arni. Specifically looking at this recent lawsuit against Shell in by environmental activities to reduce the carbon footprint by 2030 by 40%. So I understand that from her previous answers that Petronas is looking into sustainable investment into agri-tech industry, but looking at the precedent of what happened in Dutch, again Petronas being another big oil company, how does the funding ecosystem going to nurture and grow companies to look into resiliency of climate change, and is this be part of Petronas policy looking at nurturing early startups so that diversification can be done so that you have a much better or stronger climate change policy?
Fantastic question.
Thank you.
Fantastic
Yes.
point earlier.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think at the corporate level itself, we have made our commitment in terms of NZCE 2050, which is the net zero carbon 2050, and we are setting our short-term and medium-term targets to get to that from a total, as you rightly pointed out. We are at the heart of it, our core business is still oil and gas, and we are pivoting from that, and hence why looking at VC is one of the areas in terms of allowing us to look into what technologies adjacencies out there, not just to look into efficient operations or technological improvements, but also on the sustainability angle. And I mentioned a couple of investees that we had. So we've got Braintree Technology. We've also got a company that we've invested through our PIVA, our US arm, looking at fertilizers. So that's Anuvia and a few others. So you are right. From a carbon, reducing our carbon footprint, the VC angle is playing a much bigger role. And a couple of investments that we are looking into now in our funnel is leaning towards this lesser footprint, more circular economy, and carbon sequestration, CCUS, and all that. So these are all part of our broader Petronas angle. So not just from a venture capital. Venture capital is one part of it, but overall from a total Petronas strategy, there is definitely that commitment towards net zero carbon by 2050. Yeah. Thank you for that question. It is at the heart of what we're doing now.
Ben, can I add in through Arni? Because I think, Arni is just it's an easy target, Petronas, right, with carbon. But because sometimes we forget also in terms of technology.
We spoke about perception earlier, right?
Yeah,
so.
No. But the thing is, it's unfair to just focus purely on fossil fuels, because when we actually talk about it, the business that a lot of us are actually involved in is involving a lot of data service, so on and so forth, which requires a lot of energy also. So for MAVCAP, we're actually having a pivoting toward the type of investments that we are going into. We would also require to go and look in terms of the sustainability plans and strategies for the investee companies that we are working with. Because for us, the best time for us to instill the right way of doing business in a sustainable and a circular economy is when they're still young, right? And there's a Malay saying, right? Memupuk while they're still, literally translated, if you want to go and shape a bamboo shoot, you have to start it when they are young. So for VCs and startups, instill sustainability right when they are starting up and when they are most hungry for your cash. And hopefully when they actually become bigger, it becomes part of their DNA. So don't think that just because you're in the fossil fuels, they are the largest emitters. It's also in the other areas of technology that we have to be very, very aware of the ecological and sustainability impact for our business.
Ben, if I can add just one more point to that. So I think I did mention. Boleh. Okay. So I just wanted to mention, so we've done 4 direct investments out of our KL outfit. 3 is actually directly ticking off the sustainable angle. So it is, at the center. So I mentioned Braintree Technologies. So that's into automated farming. The other one is Soul's Energy. So they are doing all of our solar paneling for houses. So that's Soul's Energy. And the recent one is Log9 Materials, which is the EV lithium-ion battery as well. So these are all looking into complementing, what our core business is, which is still very much hydrocarbon. Yeah.
Ben, I just want to add to speak on behalf of the government of Malaysia. In terms of the deals that we have seen in our pipeline, as well as the one that we have approved, 2 key sectors are platform economy and fintech. Understandably so, even though most of my colleagues know that I will be very bored to listen to the same similar investment theses over and over again, especially those startups in Southeast Asia. But because, rightly so, there's so much frictions in terms of logistic and also particularly for banking, highly consolidated. We came out of the 1998 crisis with less than 8 banks, or 8 banks, correct me if I'm wrong, Yvonne. So highly centralized and so much power when there are so many underserved and unbanked segment of society. So that's why they try to solve that problem. But 2 other sectors that are fast emerging, one is mobility and second is agri-tech and food tech. These are 2 biggest problems for Malaysia because we are highly dependent on petroleum money. So it is in the interest of the government to diversify beyond. So that's why I'm pretty sure Petronas is leading to that effort. And the other government-linked investment company will address some of the pain points that we have in terms of new economic growth areas. Number 2 is agri-tech and food tech. This is because we are particularly in agriculture economy. We came out strongly because of agriculture. And we should bring back because that is competitive advantage on Malaysia and in the region. And we have imported a lot. And our food importation is our biggest problem because they are one of the biggest contributor to our inflation problem in Malaysia. And it's very important because of the balance of payment problem that the government has. So therefore, I just want to stress the point that we are also looking beyond traditional sectors such as fintech and platform economy.
Fair enough. That's the diversification is always very, very important, and looking at other things, just relying on certain cash flows and cash incomes, because that's also a topic that the ecosystem has spoken about over the years: diversification and looking at other alternatives rather than relying on the stable bread and butter, which is oil and gas, of course, in Malaysia. Look, panel, thank you very much for being amazing. But I just want to go with one last question, and I challenge you. I always have that favorite word on the business panels that I moderate is I challenge you to just keep it nice and tight. I'll start with Datuk Yvonne, and then I'll go with Zakri, and then I'll go with Taufiq and finish with Arni as well. In terms of obviously this is a very intelligent audience, asking a lot of good questions, sharing a lot of the struggles and everything like that. And like Taufiq was saying earlier, we need the startups. We want them there. We want them as part of the ecosystem, growing with every facet of every other business is out there. So what's your advice for them in terms of why should they invest or work with, your respective company, your people, and obviously your sets of expertise? And Datuk Yvonne, I know you wanted to speak a little bit about the future of investments of that as well. So you can tie that answer into this question as well. So Yvonne, I'll start with you.
I probably would say this in a very short is connecting the dots. I think what we have just heard is that obviously we have a very proactive ecosystem. That means the blueprints that we talk about moving into digital economy is basically starting from ecosystem of startups all the way to Penjana capital. And in the middle, we also have the private venture capital as well. I would say at the end of the day, we have been a very proactive, big picture, setting and guiding businesses, government, and venture capital and startup companies to come together. So we welcome people with good ideas, especially now. The startup is no more the first generation. is a much more complex, as what we heard about food security, agri-tech, edu-tech, and solving even the more complex financial services segment, like easy access to wages today is a big thing. So these are the kinds of solutions that we hope. At Cradle, I guess our job is even tougher because we have to look at the pre-seed and seed, and out of the many applications we receive, once they have received traction, then this gentleman will come in, and Arni and Ali and Taufiq will come in. So yes, I think the whole ecosystem, a very proactive, digitally driven to move us to the digital economy, will provide the investment encouraging landscape for any startups with good ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Tawfiq?
In short, Ben, my message is life is like a game of poker, right? Some of us are not born wealthy. All of us started the game not exactly with the equal stack of chips, right? But what's within our control is we chose the right table, we chose the right partner. And I can assure you that Malaysia would provide you with a sustainable and also conducive environment for you to do business. This is for the founders and the startups. For the investing community, like a game of poker, what you can control is the process. What you can control is your response and not outcome, but respond to the outcome. So in Malaysia, we have cash-rich institutional funds. We have low-geared corporates who are hungry to go regional, who are hungry for acquisitions. And we have a sizable middle class and a diverse set of populations where you can actually nurture very much innovative businesses. So come to Malaysia to invest. We have the depth we can offer, not necessarily the most a vibrant market, but we are striving to create a holistic ecosystem for investing community as well as for founders.
Ben, I just want to add one more point here.
Sure.
When you say you come to Malaysia today, you're not just looking at Malaysia. Malaysia will be the environment for you to thrive. But what is actually important and where you can reach is where we are centrally located. ASEAN is your reach. ASEAN is within your reach by air, by travel. ASEAN has 650 million population, and it is a lot of youth, and it's growing, and 3.1 trillion of US dollars of GDP. And it's going to be the next single largest marketplace and economic entity by 2030 among emerging economies. So while we provide the thriving ecosystem, your market is beyond Malaysia. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Yvonne, and thank you, Tawfiq, for that. Zakri?
2 words. We are hungry and we are patient. So obviously you can hear from all of us here, we've got capital and we want to invest into businesses, into startups, into founders, and into visionaries who can actually make a difference into this world. So, when you come to see us, please give a lot of headache to Yvonne first for her to filter, so that when you'll make my job a bit earlier. And this is where the second word comes into play, patience. Because we are not expecting to go and see miracles happening within 1 or 2 years. We are willing to invest not only just money, but time, resources, our wisdom, and our capabilities to bring you beyond Malaysia. So, for example, like some of our like Qasim, our unicorn that has just reached unicorn status, right? I mean, we've been bringing them to Australia. They've expanded into Indonesia, into Philippines. So it comes very nicely into what Yvonne had actually mentioned. Malaysia is not just for Malaysia because we're only 32 million people. So that's the nice thing about Malaysia. You can treat Malaysia, the geography, as your prototype, as your proof of concept, but with a bigger mindset of going into the region. And guess what? You're not going to go into it alone because we will be there with you. We will be invested in you, not only just in terms of dollars and cents, but invested in you to make sure that you succeed. So I really look forward to seeing you in Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Zakri. And
Ben, nothing further to add. It's all being covered by my esteemed colleagues. But, just to share, is the nurturing part, I think, that really will thrive this whole ecosystem. I mean, we've got Yvonne that will sift through for us, and then Zakri and myself will pick it out, and then we've got the whole landscape by Penjana. But making sure that it thrives between the different phases, I think that's really the key that glues us all together. And I like the fact that, you know, when we look at it from Petronas angle, it is about leveraging on our footprint. So coming back to, again, not just Malaysia in Southeast Asia, Malaysia in Asia and globally as well. And we take you to where we are in our global footprint. Yeah, that's it.
No, fantastic, Arni. And I'm just going to summarize this, everybody, with one thing that Twitter taught me a long time ago is to hashtag the words after each session that I moderate. In this session, this has been a very, very great session. We could go extremely much longer. There's more questions coming in virtually and physically, but we'll just have to cap it there. Again, you know, we're happy to share. I have the permission from the panel that to share their respective emails if you do want to get in touch with them, and then, you know, to ask some pretty specific questions as well. So great questions from the floor, great questions virtually, and fantastic sharing from the panel. I'm just going to ask you all, whether you're here virtually or whether you're here physically, please hashtag these words. From Yvonne, Chia, ASEAN opportunity, hashtag that word. From Arni, Anwarrudin, nurturing, hashtag that word. From Taufiq, Iskandar, please join. I mean, or 3 words actually, please join Malaysia. Okay. And then from Zakri is patience and hungry. Okay, 2 things Malaysians are always trying to do. Well, we're always hungry, literally and euphemistically. We always want to cari makan for our rice bowl, and we always want to grow our investment in cari makan. So that's what it's all about. So patience, hungry. Please come to Malaysia. Nurturing, ASEAN opportunity. Hashtag those words, and then after that, put that under the topic, connecting the dots, understanding the investment focus. Because this panel of Yvonne, Chia, Arni, Anwarrudin, Taufiq, Iskandar, and Tunku, Alizakri, Alias, aka Zakri, has really helped us connect the dots. So I'm going to ask the physical room, when I say the physical room, the people in this room in Dubai, to give a good old traditional round of applause for this panel for helping us connect the dots. A round of applause. And that was a loud clap. That was not a fake clap. So what I suggest you do to the panel, what you do was this: if your bosses or your friends were asking you, "Oh, how did your session go?" You just fast forward that point and show and let them listen to that clap. One more time for the clap, please.
And Ben, that's not a sitcom, right?
Thank
Okay,
you.
it is way past your dinner time. Your family must be looking at you with very funny looks at the moment. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Arni. Thank you, Taufiq.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Good luck.
Zakri.
Take care. Stay
Okay.
safe.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
And when I get back to
Thank
Kuala
you.
Lumpur, if it's safe, I think I
Coffee.
can interstate travel. I can come over and buy you coffee. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Be
It's
safe.
been a
Thanks,
privilege.
yeah.
Take care. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. There you have it.